next. Behind this reunion selfie lies an untold story of time, fame, loss, and the lasting legacy of Schindler's List 1993. There are some films you admire. There are some films you love. And then there are some films you approach with a kind of silence. Schindler's List belongs to that last group. Because it is not simply a great film. It is a film that carries weight. Historical weight. Moral weight. Human weight. And maybe that is why the image works so powerfully here. The younger actor beside the older one, both sharing a single frame, both looking into the same camera, while time stands between them. A younger Liam Neeson as Oskar Schindler, still inside the role that would become one of cinema's most enduring portraits of moral awakening. An older Liam Neeson standing beside him, carrying all the years since, all the work since, and the knowledge that some performances do not fade, they remain as testimony. A younger Ben Kingsley as Itzhak Stern, all quiet intelligence and conscience. An older Ben Kingsley beside him, as if memory itself had stepped back onto the set. A younger Ralph Fiennes as Amon Göth, terrifying in his precision. An older Ralph Fiennes standing beside that role, showing how time can separate the actor from the evil he once had to embody without ever erasing the force of the performance. That is why Schindler's List fits your selfie with time idea in a very different way from a crime drama or a nostalgic TV series. This is not mainly about aging. It is about witness. The film premiered in 1993 and went on to win 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Steven Spielberg. It also won Oscars for cinematography, film editing, original score, art direction, set decoration, and adapted screenplay. AFI later ranked it number 8 on its 10th anniversary list of the greatest American films, and AFI also placed Oskar Schindler among cinema's major heroes. Those awards matter, but they are not the reason the film endures. The film endures because it did something very few films can do honestly. It took unimaginable historical horror and treated it with gravity, restraint, and humanity rather than spectacle. It did not turn suffering into entertainment. It turned cinema into remembrance. That is why AFI continues to treat it not only as one of the great films, but as one of the important moral touchstones in American cinema. AFI also ranked it highly on its Cheers list of inspirational films. And that matters for your format. Because when you place the younger and older cast together in one frame, Schindler's List does not become a gimmick. It becomes a meditation on time, memory, and responsibility. The younger actor is the performance as it was made. The older actor is the life that continued after it. And between them stands history. So what happened to the cast? Who is still active? Who moved away from the center of the spotlight? And who is no longer here? The main cast remained remarkably active over time. Liam Neeson is still working, with multiple upcoming projects listed, including The Naked Gun and other 2025 to 2026 releases. Ralph Fiennes remains highly active as well, with projects including 28 Years Later, The Coral, and directing work in development. Ben Kingsley also continues acting, with recent and upcoming work including Wonder Man and other projects in active circulation. That means the story here is not one of disappearance. It is more a story of endurance. Caroline Goodall is still active, with 2024 to 2025 work listed, and Embeth Davids has continued acting while also moving into directing, with her directorial work drawing fresh attention. So who really left the stage? Very few principal figures did so in a dramatic, all-at-once way. The more truthful version is that some remained globally visible stars, while others moved into more selective, lower volume, or less public careers. That distinction matters. Because this film deserves precision, not mythology. And then there is the harder part. Some of the people tied to the film are no longer here. Producer Branko Lustig, himself a Holocaust survivor and one of the producers behind the film's Best Picture win, died in 2019. Beyond the actors, that fact matters profoundly. Because Schindler's List was never just a cinematic achievement. It was built in part by people whose lives were directly connected to the historical catastrophe the film depicts. So when you revisit the film now, the reunion image changes. The younger self is not only youth, it is preservation. The older self, if still living, becomes witness to what the role meant and what the film became. And if someone is gone, the image becomes elegiac. Not sentimental. Not decorative. Elegiac. That is one reason Schindler's List still stands in a category of its own. It is not merely a great historical drama. It is one of the few films that appears both in discussions of cinematic greatness and in discussions of cinema's moral responsibility. AFI's rankings and the Oscars record both reflect that unusual double status. So then comes the difficult question. Has any film surpassed it? The honest answer depends on what surpassed means. If you mean total technical influence on cinema, there are many contenders. If you mean the broad history of world cinema, then films like Citizen Kane, The Godfather, and others will always remain in that debate. AFI itself places Schindler's List at number 8, not number 1. But if you mean something more specific, a film's ability to unite historical gravity, moral seriousness, artistic excellence, and emotional permanence, then Schindler's List remains very difficult to surpass. Because this is not simply a film that was praised. It is a film people return to with reverence. And maybe the reason for that lies in its core value. Because Schindler's List is not really about redemption in a simplistic sense. It is not about one good man appearing in a dark time and making everything right. That would be false. Its core value is this. One human life matters, and so does the choice to act while there is still time. That is the beating heart of the film. Not spectacle. Not prestige. Not awards. Not even only memory. Choice. The choice to see another human being fully. The choice to resist indifference. The choice to use power, money, access, and privilege for rescue rather than comfort. The choice to understand, too late perhaps but still truly, that the value of life cannot be measured in profit. That is why Oskar Schindler remains so powerful as a character. AFI's recognition of him as a major screen hero makes sense not because he is pure, but because he changes. He is one of the rare heroes defined not by perfection, but by moral awakening. And that is why the older and younger self-image hits so hard here. The younger Schindler still lives inside the transformation. The older face would know what the world made of that story afterward. The younger Stern still carries quiet conscience inside catastrophe. The older face would carry memory. The younger actors are inside the making of history on screen. The older actors stand beside the fact that the film itself has become part of cultural memory. That is not just nostalgia. That is testimony meeting time. And perhaps that is the final achievement of Schindler's List. Not only that it won Oscars. Not only that it ranks highly with AFI. Not only that Spielberg finally won Best Director for it. But that it still asks something of the viewer. It asks attention. It asks humility. It asks remembrance. It asks us not to let history become abstract. And when your video brings the younger and older selves together in one frame, that question becomes visual. What does time do to a performance? What does history do to memory? What does witness look like after decades have passed? In many films, that question leads to nostalgia. Here, it leads somewhere deeper. It leads to responsibility. Because long after the cameras stopped, long after the awards, long after the reviews and rankings and retrospectives, the film remained. still difficult, still human, still devastating, still necessary. That is very rare. And maybe that is why these reunion images would feel so powerful for Schindler's List. Not because the past looks beautiful. It does not. But because the human beings who carry that story on screen can remind us that art, at its best, is not escape from history. It is one way of keeping history visible. When you think about Schindler's List today, which performance stays with you most deeply? Liam Neeson, Ben Kingsley, Ralph Fiennes, or someone else? Which selfie with time reunion from Schindler's List would feel the most emotional to you, and why? Do you believe any historical film has truly surpassed Schindler's List in moral weight and lasting impact? Or does it still stand in a category of its own?